They laughed when the fire started. From the gallery seat to the coalition observation deck, they watched the last of our temporary shelters burn under a copper sky. It looked like pure human incompetence, a whole expedition force watching their tents go up in smoke. Alien evaluators scribbled notes about our primitive planning and poor environmental adaptation. I'm sure it made them feel superior. This planet, K417, was our consolation prize. We'd lost the border skirmishes, so the coalition awarded us this marginal world with thin soil and erratic weather. It was also a graveyard, littered with wreckage from a forgotten war between species long extinct. The coalition insisted on oversight, of course. They had to make sure we upstart mammals didn't violate salvage accords or try to militarize the site. Commander Elias Ward stood at the edge of the burning encampment. His uniform was dusty, his hands clasped behind his back, his face a mask. He watched the flames eat the last standardized habitat module, the kind every junior species gets when settling a new world. The alien observers weren't even trying to whisper anymore. They openly discussed how humans were clearly not ready for independent expansion. Ward didn't correct them. He didn't even look back at them. He just watched the smoke rise and scatter into the wind. This part had to look real. The coalition court had already ruled against us, claiming we lacked the discipline for long-term survival. They said our rapid adaptation was reckless, not ingenious. K-417 was supposed to be the final proof. The rules were suffocating. No permanent structures. No unauthorized power grids. No concealed fortifications. And absolutely no salvaging of ancient military debris without permits that would take years to get. We arrived with a single transport and a skeleton crew of engineers, medics, and security. Everyone expected us to fail. For the first few days, we played the part perfectly. We struggled to grow anything in the soil. We lost equipment to sudden temperature drops. We requested minor aid and were denied with bureaucratic smiles. Ward was a logistics officer, not a hero. He was a man who had learned during the war that humans don't survive by winning arguments. We survived by outlasting assumptions. So as night fell on the day our camp burned to the ground, the observers leaned in, expecting to see panic. They expected to see us break. Instead, they saw us disperse calmly into the surrounding debris field. Our headlamps flicked on, one by one, like fireflies moving among the twisted, half-buried ribs of an ancient warship. The escalation was subtle at first, easy for them to dismiss. Their drones noted unusual activity. Humans were spending long hours cutting, welding, and hauling scrap. But every time they asked for an explanation, we gave them vague answers. Temporary weather mitigation, personal morale solutions. The phrases were so small, so harmless, they slipped right through the cracks of oversight. The observers, the tall, armored Krell, the sleek, bird-like Dasari, and the smug Veil administrators grew more confident. They wrote in their reports how humans clung to individual comforts instead of efficient communal planning. They noted our obsession with personal space and aesthetics, even in a survival scenario. What their reports didn't capture was the sound of laughter echoing through the wreckage. They didn't record the steady rhythm of human hands turning scrap into structure. They didn't see Ward walking the perimeter each night, not guarding against attack, but guarding against our own impatience. The hardest part was waiting for the right moment. By the third week, the weather turned brutal. A magnetic storm rolled in from the horizon, a churning wall of electrical chaos. This was it. The observers leaned forward, expecting us to finally crack, to beg for rescue. But instead, their sensors picked up something else. Thermal signatures spiked in small, contained, stable patterns all across the debris field. When the storm cleared, their drones finally saw it. Tucked into the protective ribs of the ancient starship was a cluster of cabins. Each one was unique, built from scorched hull plates and insulated with repurposed foam. The windows were cut and polished from transparent alloy, and smoke curled gently from improvised chimneys. They weren't just shelters. They were homes. They were warm, efficient, and unmistakably human. Some had porches, railings, even wind chimes made from old shell casings. The coalition protested immediately, violations, unauthorized construction. But Ward was ready. He calmly submitted the documentation. He showed them that nothing was permanent. Nothing altered the land. Everything was reversible. And every single piece of material had been legally classified as non-functional debris because the ship itself had been declared irreparable centuries ago. We had followed every rule. The real turning point came at sunset on the 21st day. The Coalition Council demanded an in-person inspection. They were coming to shut us down for good. Ward welcomed them without ceremony, leading the robed officials and their armored guards through the debris field as the sky burned orange and gold. They expected to find squalor. They found warmth. They found community. Inside the main cabin, built into what was once a battleship's massive engine housing, the air was still, and the light was soft. The walls were lined with reclaimed metal, polished to a dull shine. In the center of the room stood a simple table, carved from a structural beam that had somehow survived orbital bombardment. The aliens felt it before they understood it. Stability, comfort, a sense of permanence that somehow defied their rules without breaking them. One of the Krell inspectors, a towering figure in chitinous armor, ran a claw along a wall. He hissed in surprise when the thermal reading held steady, despite the drop in temperature outside. That's when Ward finally spoke. His voice was low, even, and calm. He explained that humans learned a long time ago that standard solutions fail in non-standard environments. Burning the tents wasn't incompetence. He told them. It was realism. No one survives by pretending fragile things will last forever. The climax wasn't a battle. It was a reckoning. The inspectors realized with dawning horror that we had followed every single rule they had written to constrain us. We had built resilience out of ruins, morale out of scraps, and a community out of individual effort, all while being watched, mocked, and underestimated. But it was worse than that. The energy readings they dismissed as minor comforts for a soft species revealed something much deeper. The cabins were modular. They were mobile. They could be dismantled and reassembled anywhere on the planet. It was a civilian technology that perfectly mirrored the military rapid deployment doctrines the Coalition was so proud of. There was panic then. Not loud, but sharp. Whispered arguments erupted about precedent. What did it mean if humans could thrive under conditions designed to break them? How many other constellation worlds across the galaxy could quietly be turned into strategic footholds? Ward didn't gloat. He simply offered them tea, brewed from imported leaves and heated on a stove made from an old reactor casing. He watched as the alien officials hesitated before accepting the cups. Dominance doesn't need to be declared when it's already understood. In the end, the council withdrew their oversight. The official reason was budget reallocation. They even issued a statement praising human ingenuity within limits. But we knew the real reason. They were quietly amending future treaties to account for a species that could turn debris into doctrine. The resolution spread slowly through the Coalition. Images of our cabins at sunset, smoke rising peacefully into the alien sky. Pictures of humans standing on their porches, looking out at a world that was meant to humble them. The final report, almost begrudgingly, noted that burning the tents had been a necessary, strategic step towards sustainable settlement. As night fell once more on K-417, Commander Ward sat on the steps of his cabin, the recycled metal still warm beneath him. He listened to the wind whistle through the wreckage that was now our home. He knew that somewhere, in a distant council chamber, powerful beings were recalculating. They were trying to figure out what it meant to give humanity nothing and expect us to fail. Because we had just proven, to them and to ourselves, that even ruins could be enough. If you just knew how to live in them. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more.